And here we go. Good morning, Martin Babinec.
Morning, Bill. Thanks for having me.
So we had the congressman on, and he's taken heat over his endorsement of Hillary Clinton. He just has said repeatedly, though, he has a hard time with the words and the lack of knowledge that have come out of the mouth and the brain of whatever you say of Donald Trump. You want to comment on that?
Well, I have a lot of respect for Congressman Hannan. I think he has represented this district with distinction. We've all known he is a man who is independently minded, and I do respect him for that as well. And I'll acknowledge that there are certainly things that Donald Trump says that make me shudder. Right? There are statements that he has made that, in particular when directed at individuals, definitely raise questions for me, as I know it has for many other voters. And at the same time, there are things that Donald Trump brings to the table in terms of policies that are absolutely representing change that could move our country forward in a better direction. So as I have said on this broadcast in prior interviews, I'm still in that mind where I have concerns about both candidates.
Yeah.
And I have not yet made a decision as to where I'll be casting my vote.
This race is an interesting one that you're in the midst of, and you've been doing a lot of advertising. I'm not sure we've heard much from the Democrat up to this point, and even from the Assemblywoman, who's, in terms of television commercials, you're spending, it seems, a significant amount of money, of your own money, on TV commercials. But it is interesting in that, similar to the presidential race, there are people, it seems, that are very polarized about Claudia Tenney, either for or against. Do you see that as your opening? Is that the opening in the doorway here? Is it the doorway?
Well, certainly the opportunity for me to win this race is in part based on who my opponents are. And I do feel I bring some things to the table that are in sharp contrast to the two opponents that I have. I don't really worry so much about what they do. I have to concentrate on my message and, importantly, getting my message heard by as many voters as possible. Because since I'm running as an independent, I don't really come in with major party support or, we started this with zero organization and zero volunteers and had to build everything from the ground up. This is very difficult. But yes, I think my message and what I offer voters is distinctly different from that which is offered by my opponents, and I'm going to concentrate on what I do and worry less about what my opponents do.
All right. What would you, based on in the ways that I can't, Karen Myers, we don't, or Kim Myers, I call her Karen, Kim, back and forth, we don't see a lot of her. There's not much we know about her, to be honest. And I don't believe she's ever been in government. I know she's worked on a school board.
Broome County legislator,
right. But in terms of any state position or any state policies or certainly federal, but on the other hand, Claudia Tenney has been in Albany and has served. How would you be different than her? Specifically, in terms of policy, where would you have voted differently if instead of running for Congress, you were the assemblyman in her position? How would you have voted differently?
Well, again, I'm not trying to put myself in her shoes and say this is what I would have done differently on specific votes, as much as I would observe that in terms of accomplishment of how are our lives any different in this assembly district or in this congressional district, I would say that there is no evidence of actually accomplishing something, because I tend to look at the opportunity in any elected office to go beyond just casting votes, which is important. And we elect our representatives with the desire to see them cast votes on laws that will make our lives better, and that's very important, but not the only part of the job. We also elect our representatives to provide service to us, and constituent service, and to help people with individual problems or small businesses with individual problems. And again, I haven't seen evidence of where that has translated to actual change. And the third pillar of any representative, state or federal, is how can an individual use the responsibilities that come with that role in office to bring people together and bring about change that otherwise might not have happened were it not for the leadership exercised by that person. That's what I intend to do in my role as congressman. It's the reason I'm running for office. And so I don't worry so much about what my opponents have or have not done. I can only say this is what I represent, this is what I've done, and what I'm going to do when I'm elected.
So I'll rephrase one thing. And one of the big issues for Assemblywoman Tenney is the United Nations and Ray Halbritter in particular. What kind of relationship will you have with the United Nations?
Well, I have a lot of respect for the United Nations and the impact they've had on this region. They are the largest employer in the district. That is very significant. And any time you employ, in this case, more than 4,000 people, the economic impact for individuals is huge. They've also done a lot to help local communities. When I first moved back to the Mohawk Valley from California, and there were at that point a lot of lawsuits flying back and forth between property owners and even businesses with the United Nations, I must admit I didn't take a lot of time to understand what was going on. I took a lot of headlines at face value and just kind of passed by it. In recent months, especially after I made the decision to run, I did invest more time to understand this, and the more I peel it back, the more I see that not only is there economic impact, but there's a lot of reasons for doing what they do in the United Nations that has benefit for this area. So I would look to forge a collaborative relationship, and not only because of the economic impact, but the impact that what happens there does benefit the rest of this area.
All right, we got about 3 minutes left, so I want to do a little lightning round here, and we'll throw out some national topics, and just for people to get an idea of how you would and how you will vote if you become our congressman, and we'll go to Manaski for the lightning round national topics.
Can I ask you about your position on fracking? Would you support fracking? You against fracking?
Yeah, I am not a fan of fracking from the standpoint that the risk to creating damage in our environment is not worth taking on. I believe that we have the opportunity to generate sufficient energy and meet our needs through other sources. So I'm not a fan of fracking.
Do you think the refugee population here and immigration in upstate New York in the 22nd District is an often topic, and we hear a lot about it nationally? Where do you stand on plans to bring in refugees from what some people call terror-centric countries, or countries that really don't that may not support our beliefs here in the United States? Where are you on immigration?
I'm a believer that we should be able to vet the individuals coming into our country, and where there is certainly a desire to help those that have been in situations where they're refugees, and we have a history as a country of doing so. It has to be balanced with our needs for national security. So I would err on the side of making sure that whomever we let in under that kind of program, that we have adequate ability to make sure that we're not presenting ourselves with additional security risks.
Illegal immigrants who are here, should they be shipped back to their home country?
Since we have more than 11 million undocumented people, it's probably not reality that we're going to ship 11 million people out of this country. There's a lot of distance, though, between saying everyone is here should stay and let's get rid of 11 million people that are already here. So striking the right balance of what we do with the people that are undocumented, and more importantly, how we start enforcing even the existing laws on the books would be an area that I would plan on spending more time on, because our immigration policies, in my opinion, are not taking advantage of the opportunity to get the right talent in the country that can help us grow our economy.
Would you build a wall on the southern border?
That's going to be a decision made by the president. I don't look at a physical wall as necessarily going to be the answer to do the things that we do. I would begin with, let's enforce the laws that we have, and let's make sure that our border security is properly resourced so that those laws can be enforced.
And until that time, until we're comfortable that that's happening, are you comfortable with Donald Trump's latest proposal that we would ban immigration from countries that are tied to terrorism. And then he went one step further by saying, and we'd vet them to make sure that they have the same values as we do.
I don't know how he plans to vet them to ensure that alignment with our values. I'd want to know more. So the answer is, it's interesting, but I'd want to see more on the how.
And one more from Manasseh.
Where are you on Obamacare? Is this working, not working? Replace it, fix it? Where are you on Obamacare?
Well, as you know, my background is as a professional employer, and my company TriNet provides services that include provision of health benefits for more than 13,000 businesses around the U.S. So this is an area that I have a bit of experience in. And I can tell you, Obamacare has been an unmitigated disaster with respect to how it impacts especially small to mid-sized companies. So if it were up to me, I would repeal and replace. It would be my preference. And I think there are a lot of things we can do in the healthcare side that would increase the scope of the number of people covered and help us reduce costs in ways that could be much more effective.
And is there I'm told there's we're getting this, and I'm assuming it's coming from your opponent's side, a $1 million lawsuit for a Department of Labor lawsuit against your company over labor issues?
Remember that we are right now the employer of about 340,000 employees around the U.S., which effectively makes TriNet about the sixth largest private employer. And anytime you have that number, when you think about that, especially over a period of years, various things come up, including how look at the number of tax bills that we pay on a daily basis. There are various things that are in court. It's not unusual for any employer that is at this size. So there is nothing that I am personally worried about that's going to impact our company. I am very proud of the job that our company has done in not only providing the services that we do, but helping each and every one of these businesses stay compliant with law.
Got it. Martin Babinec, and you're making some noise out there as an independent. This might be your year. I mean, you're looking at the numbers Gary Johnson is beginning to pull as a third-party candidate. It's kind of interesting.
There's no question that in most years, running as an independent for Congress would be considered insanity, but this is not most years.
No doubt about it. All right, Martin, thanks so much. I appreciate your time.
Bye.